Recording from Title One Studio in Sandy, Utah, you're listening to The GOAT, the greatest of all title companies. Hello, my name's Steph Scholl, and I'm here with the one and only Scott Stevenson.
Better known as the Silver Dollar Man. Now, real estate is always evolving, and one of the biggest game changers lately has been how we close. Now, thanks to Remote Online Notarization, or RON for short, buyers and sellers can sign from anywhere in the world, securely and legally, without ever stepping a foot in the title office.
To walk us through this, we have one of our escrow officers, Taisha Ostler. So, Taisha, tell us a little bit about what Ron really does.
Ron is a great way for us to be able to accommodate a closing when a person cannot be in the title office physically.
Okay, so how is that different? I know they're not in the title company, but how is a RON closing different from a traditional in-person close?
So with the Ron closing, you have a notary who has been certified as a remote online notary, and that person can then meet with a person who's signing remotely. So it's almost like a Zoom call is probably the best way to make a connection there for people, where you meet in an online room, go over the documents, and then you can share screens and watch that signature happen electronically. And then the notary is able to electronically notarize the document rather than actually being in the title company physically, where you have to sign with a wet signature and have a notary stamp put onto the pages.
Well, does the notary have to be with the person or no?
So that's the great thing about Ron. You can have, 5 different parties in 5 different places, but you can
Yeah,
all meet together
I
in
see.
that electronic room and all participate in the closing and sign electronically that way.
So, is that who benefits like the most from this? Like people that are all in different states, or who else benefits from Ron?
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of different ways that people can benefit from it. Out of state is definitely the easiest way for people to be able to connect. But, if somebody is maybe in the hospital and can't get into the title company physically, or maybe in a rest home or something where they're needing to be able to remote in rather than come in physically, that's another great option there. It would be great even if the people are available, but maybe their agent wants to be part of it and the agent is traveling, then the agent could remote in as well with the people to sign remotely that way as well.
Well, security is always a big topic, particularly today with all the electronic stuff that's going on. So how do you make sure that RON closings are safe and legal?
Yes, that's a great question too. You can't have anybody who's a notary do a RON closing. It has to be somebody who has that additional certification through the state of Utah in order to legally notarize electronically. So it does have to be a RON certified notary who's doing the closing in order to make it legal. And there are parameters that have to be put into place with the notary stamp and language that comes along with that goes on to the notary stamp, so that when the county is looking at those documents, they can see that it was a RON closing and that it was done properly. As far as security, we have platforms that keep everything secure for us. So we use a specific signing platform that we go through that does everything securely for us. And you have to have the verification done beforehand in order to legally do this. When somebody decides to do an online notary, they have to go through a verification process in which the platform sends out questions that they have to answer. They have to answer those questions correctly. At least 4 out of the 5 questions have to be done correctly. And then there's a facial verification that happens through that system to make sure that everything matches up correctly there and that you're really signing with the person that they say that they are.
Can agents make a request for this kind of closing through you?
Yes, they can. So, yes, if they know that one of their parties will be out of town or, traveling, they can contact me and say, we need to do a remote online notary. So then I get the information from the borrower. We put all of that information into the platform that we use, and then that sends them a link. Once the borrower gets that link, then they start to go through the verification process. They can do the verification process as soon as they have that link. And we prefer that they get that verification done as quickly as possible. And then once the verification is finished, then there's an appointed time that everybody comes back and meets at that appointed time.
So I have a question. You said like people that are out of town or traveling, but what about someone that maybe they have little kids, or I've seen before when we have snowstorms, people aren't wanting to travel. Can you just use it for anyone, or is it now more people not in the state?
That's a good question. It can be used for anyone. However, there are certain closings that do not qualify to be a RON closing. Some lenders won't accept RON signatures. They will not accept the online remote signatures. So the very first thing that the escrow officer needs to do on a purchase or a refinance is to find out if the lender accepts RON closings or not. Accept the RON closing, you've got to find another way to handle that situation. If they do accept it, there are still some struggles and parameters that come into play with how large the package is that's being signed through the remote online notarization. Some of the platforms don't have the capability to handle a large full lender packet. So it kind of depends on how many documents actually need to be signed as well. I think that the best options for a RON closing are a seller side or like a very small lender package that is maybe like a hybrid where they've already signed some of the documents with their lender electronically, and then there's just a few documents that need to be notarized with the notary. So smaller packets usually tend to work better. However, in an emergency situation where somebody is snowed out or they have smaller children, we can absolutely make those things work. We can find a workaround to make that come together as needed. So there's a lot of different ways that this can come into play. That's just something that an agent would want to talk to their escrow officer about.
That's some great information. So the agents need to know something beforehand before just offering a RON closing, because it's not always possible.
Correct.
So how do you think the RON closings have changed the way we serve people at Title I, and what do you think future closings look like?
I think that the RON closings have opened up a lot of possibilities for us that we didn't have before. For example, we had a signer who lives in Mexico but owns property here in Utah and needed to do a remote online signing, where in the past we would have had to use like a service that could get the documents to them. We would have to wait, the 3 to 5 days that it would take to get those back. It was a slower process, and this has sped everything up. It just makes it possible to be able to get a signing done and record it that same day.
Right.
So it really has sped things up and just opened up a lot of possibilities internationally when people are traveling, et cetera. I think in terms of the future, I think that there's a possibility that more and more closings will start to happen electronically. I don't think that that's going to completely change the way that the industry looks. I think that in-person connection that we have with people in the closing room, especially with colossal closings that we're able to offer, there's something magical and special about that. To be able to connect with people in person, I think is really the best way that we can connect with people when we're doing closings still. But it just gives us opportunities and options that we didn't have before. And I do think even if more and more closings become electronic, there's still going to be a really important human component of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a great tool. Technology is still trying to catch up a little bit to it. Sometimes the way that people interact with the technology, either the people aren't quite understanding exactly what they need to do, or the technology isn't as high tech as it needs to be on their end or on our end or whatever, So sometimes it does take a little bit of work to make everything connect yet. I think that'll continue to improve as well. So I think that it's just a matter of a little bit more time with these things, but I think eventually we'll see more and more electronic type signings in the future.
So, you got to pick the topic today. Why are you passionate that the agents know about RON?
I just think that it's a unique service that we can offer here at Title One. Not every escrow officer, not every notary is Ron certified. We do have Ron certified notaries here. As soon as I heard about Ron, it was something I wanted to be involved in right away. So I jumped right in and got certified. And it's been, I think, just a really important tool to have in our toolkit. And I really want agents to know that we have that capability. We have that option so that if there's something that just isn't going to, I think that there's enough pressure with getting a deal to come together that you don't need that last minute stress of finding out that somebody's not going to be available to do an in-person signing and not having an option to take care of it quickly. This gives us an option to take care of that quickly.
Taisha, thank you so much for breaking down Ron and really showing us how Title One's leading the way in securing these convenient digital closings.
So just a reminder, if you aren't doing business with Taisha, you should be.